had a stroke patient here. He was disabled, and now he's pushing sleds on the turf, and his whole life is different. But everyone around him is so much more impactful in his life, because when he was at his worst, when he had the accident, people showed up, to take care of him and didn't allow him to give up.
I'm always amazed by how many people don't know how to use the shockwave right. Because if you use it right on the right thing, it gets people way better really fast.
From CrossFit then to opening up your current business, what was the difficulties that you faced opening up Atlanta Sports Recovery?
So I started as a guy in a gym with a table and a dark corner in the room, and really like creating understanding in what I was doing and how it was different from what other people was doing was probably my first hurdle. And just getting that messaging out there where you're like, hey, I'm not a PT, but I'm more than a PT. How can I help improve people's movement quality and reduce pain?
Absolutely. All right, welcome to the 1% Club podcast. Today I've got Johnny from Atlanta Sports Recovery. I'm so excited to have you on today, man. I can't thank you enough for coming out here. And, I think we share the same vision, so I'm super excited to be talking with you today.
I'm so fired up to be here, man. I've been a long time distant observer on the internet, and like you have taken what's been in my head for like years and made it happen. And like this is sort of like oh my god, like this can be a thing for me, like to actually see that vision all the way through. So thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Thank you, man. And I'm honored for it. And I think that my new mission is to help other people be able to to achieve things like this, because I think sometimes, like I was telling you before, when this was getting built, I got no guidance. I had no mentorship. In fact, I had the other. It was like, that's a stupid idea. That's not going to work out. And now that we did it, I want to be able to help other people achieve those goals. And I feel like I'm just getting started here, especially on the business side, which I'm sure that we'll get into.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about your background in sports recovery and performance?
Okay, so I started as a CrossFit coach back in 2012.
Okay.
And owned a gym. Like many people do, you go to a weekend course, you open a CrossFit gym, and then you're like, training people on Monday. And I started hurting people like very, very quickly into it. I was, programming shoulders every day because that's what I thought was what I should be doing. And that kind of put me down this rabbit hole of like, why am I breaking people? I don't have enough education. I need to get smarter on this stuff. And then that put me onto some books by like Dr. Kelly Starrett, Simple Leopard, Gray Cook, Movement, those books. And I just ended up being like, oh my God, I love this. I want to know more and more and more and more. And that started pushing me into crossing the lines between being a trainer and I guess what you call being a physical therapist or even a chiro on some level. So that put me into like, yo, you got to go make this thing legal. If you're going to touch people, if you're going to use your hands on people, then you got to do that. So I ended up in massage therapy school to kind of get that professional licensure and to be able to touch people. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
From I'm sure that it inspired you to go from CrossFit then to opening up your current business.
Yeah.
And what was the difficulties that you faced opening up Atlanta Sports Recovery?
Oh man. So I started similar to you, like just a guy in a gym with a table and a dark corner in the room, and really like creating understanding in what I was doing and how it was different from what other people was doing was probably my first hurdle. And just getting that messaging out there where you're like, hey, I'm not a PT, but I'm more than a PT. Like, how can I help improve people's movement quality and reduce pain?
Absolutely.
From manual therapy and from corrective exercise and all those things. So just that education piece. And then from there, it was like growing from CrossFit, right? Like I still love that community. I still heavily involved with it. But like really getting the word out there into other places. Like, hey, like what I'm doing is not just for people that do CrossFit. It's also for runners, jiu-jitsu players, all these other things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's your main source of clientele now at your business?
Our main source of clientele is probably like word of mouth referral from coaches. So one of the things that I'm really huge on is like going into gyms, connecting with coaches, building relationships there. I think that they're the actual like influencers and the person that's like really directing their clients. So I feel like if I can get in there, make a relationship, get them on our tables and show them what we need to do, then it makes it really easy for them to say like, hey, Sean, your shoulder hurts, go see Johnny at Atlanta Sports Recovery. He's going to get you hooked up.
Yeah, and I love that because it's almost like you're able to collaborate with other great people together. And then, I mean, obviously creates a relationship, and then you can all offer a much better care system because now their coach is also buying into what the athlete is doing as well.
Yeah, it gives that continuity, right? So
Absolutely.
Where they actually believe in what we're doing and helping. And then if we're calling them saying like, yo, he shouldn't sprint next week, like they usually are going to believe us because they kind of know what's up and what we're doing.
Yeah. Could you share your vision between Atlanta Sports Recovery?
What do you mean by that? Like,
and that's a tough question because someone asked me what my vision was, and I don't know, so I had to make an actual vision system for what I thought Project Me was, because you should be able to answer it in one sentence.
Okay, so my vision for the company started as being a really, really good musculoskeletal healthcare provider for people in a gym. My vision now is to build a big company that is integrated between all the different facets of people that will engage with an athlete in their musculoskeletal healthcare. So whether it be a performance coach working on that side, whether it be a PT or an AT that's treating people, keeping them healthy, whether it be a physician that's looking at the blood work and trying to make medicine recommendations in order to optimize performance. So it's building a facility where all those things happen in one place, where there's no egos around it.
Absolutely.
I've seen stories of failures in the past of trying to integrate different healthcare providers in our practice and it not working.
Yes.
But no egos, everybody on the same page, everybody moving that human being down towards that ultimate goal of being the best that they can be in whatever it is they want to do.
I think that's amazing. I like to call it like you're coming with like a client or a patient-centric approach where they know that, okay, I've got 3 different people on my team, on my care team, and they get me better. And I feel like it builds a lot more trust in the business, and then it shows you have power. Like you can connect with higher end individuals. Like you can go and get someone an MRI in a day,
right?
Or they can wait for their insurance for 6 weeks, And I think people really like that, being able to almost take their health and into control in their own hands.
I agree, man. I want every single person that walks into my building to get the best care and to feel it, right? Like if I had a guy come in the other day that had a compression fracture in his spine from a bodyboarding injury, and like if I could be in a facility where I just said like, hey man, what you're telling me thinks we need an x-ray on that, like we need an MRI on that right now, and by the way there's a physician here that can read that within 2 minutes, and that like at that point you probably need to get a back brace. We can have somebody in here fitting you for that, and instead of it being like this crazy process where 2 weeks later he's finding out that he does have a compression fracture.
And then who knows when he's going to get a back brace. I think that's the downside of the medical system that's created today, and I think why so many people are going more towards cash pay.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just, and you get what you pay for, right? Like the insurance system is, I'll use physical therapy as an example. Like if you go in a physical therapist, they can't do what they want to you. Like they may not be able to dry needle you if they think that's the best like course of action there, because they might not get reimbursed for it. So instead they give you some bullshit exercises and send you on your way.
And I think that's why I got lucky here, because we had a full cash-based business for 8 years. We added physical therapy in 2 years ago, and it is all cash pay. But we always get asked, do you take insurance? And we just did it yesterday. We explained, hey, we don't. And the reason is why is we don't want to be limited to what area we can treat you. We don't want to be limited to how many visits you're going to get. We don't want to be limited to modalities.
Right.
And we don't want to answer to anyone but the high up people in our company that are on your team to get you better. And usually it really resonates with someone. And I think their results are able to speak for themselves. And we can afford to have expensive recovery equipment because we're not, working for $30 a patient, fighting for the insurance, seeing 4 people an hour,
Yeah, it costs you more money to get that $30 reimbursement check than it would for any other facet of your business. You might as well take cash and just be upfront. And I love America. I think America's a great place. One of the great things about capitalism is transparency and transactions. If I go buy a car, I know how much it costs. I know what I'm getting. I can haggle with somebody about that price if I want to, or talk to them about it. But like that doesn't happen in healthcare, right? Like doing the cash pay way is like what's best for the patient, but also what's just the most transparent thing for the patient.
Absolutely.
And like we're not doing that, it's freaking dumb.
And it's great for the patient because if we don't do a good job, that person's not going to continue to pay.
And they can also look at you and say like, hey, Sean, I'm not getting better from this. And like you're going to take that personally because you don't want your reputation to be bad. You're going to go out there and figure some things out or call some other people from your team and get that person better. It's just so much better of an option than insurance.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we share that same vision because I think that's part of that vision. You'll always have business because you're operating out of that good spot. Like you really want everyone's best interest in mind for sure.
Agreed, man. Agreed.
How do you approach blending disciplines of massage therapy, strength training, and mental health? And I know that when people are dealing with injuries, how dwelling that can be on their actual mental health.
So integrating things, just one, it takes good people, right? Like you gotta have everybody on the same page, in agreement, like, hey, what's best for this person may not be at me at this point in time. I'm gonna understand that I can't, work on this person's shoulder anymore and get it better. They're gonna need to get it stronger. So just having that culture of not having an ego and being okay with handing somebody off on your team. The mental health component of it is heavy and hard, man. I know you know this from years of grinding with patients and athletes, but people that are in pain, it's a lot more than just that pain in their shoulder. And they, especially if you care about your body, you care about movement, and you care about performing, it takes something away from you. So I think we're always trying to keep ourselves educated on how to talk to people, the best ways of making sure that we're looking for depression in the practice, and then having partnerships with people in the mental health space where we can refer them out, but then also ourselves just being positive people that are reminding them we're going to get you better, right? We're your Sherpa through this thing, and we're going to build hope in you so you don't feel that terrible depression, anxiety, all those negative things that come along.
Yeah, and I think obviously being a therapist and connecting on someone's body, they're going to tell you a lot more things than they're going to tell their significant other, because there's a trust establishment that's been built there. So I think that we actually help people on a much greater level than what's given us credit for, and it's something that's so important. And when you're able to communicate with that client and almost build that trust and that bond, I feel like you're giving them so much more. It's you're giving them back hope. Sometimes people get in really bad accidents that they didn't ask for, and their whole life changes and their support changes around them. So it's if you can be that one person to uplift them, and kind of coach and navigate them through that, I think that's a huge thing. And I love that you do the strength training too, because just because they're doing PT doesn't mean that they can't work out. I've had a stroke patient here. He was disabled and now he's pushing sleds on the turf, and his whole life is different. But everyone around him is so much more impactful in his life, because when he was at his worst, when he had the accident, people showed up, to take care of him and didn't allow him to give up.
Yeah, it's so important to build that mindset of resiliency, right? The space that we're in really does that. It fosters that. And human beings are amazing. We're capable of anything that we really put our mind to, including recovering from really terrible things like a stroke. And I think just fostering that sort of mentality within your clients and patients is probably one of the most important things you can do for mental health.
Absolutely. I know that you mentioned that education is a key approach.
Yeah.
How do you empower your clients to foster independence in their recovery and their performance journey?
So I'm huge into client education. I think that the people that come to see my team, we want them to leave smarter and probably more well prepared than some other practitioners that are in our area. So we're sending them either content that we're putting out about what they're dealing with and how to get better from it. Maybe we're just giving general education. We put newsletters, we put social media stuff out all the time that's just centered around education, sharing our knowledge with people. But it's really, really important to me that people are not just getting better, but also getting an understanding of the human body, how it works, how healing works, how gaining strength works. So when they're going through life, they're not going through a sleep, right? Just thinking they have no control over their friggin' meat wagon. It's ridiculous.
Yes. Can you explain how you integrate techniques like ART, Mulligan, and the fascial distortion model in your practice?
So I believe that each of those things are a different tool for a different system in the body. So over the years of learning, I think we've kind of come up with our process that we use, which is we always treat the joint first. You think if the joint isn't functioning like it's supposed to, it can cause a bunch of downstream problems. And that means looking at the entire kinetic chain. So if you have somebody with a shoulder and you're not looking at the neck and thoracic spine, you're not doing your job. And then the second thing we're doing is just looking at the sliding surfaces, the fascial relationship. So that's using ART or fascial distortion model to kind of treat those things. And then we're looking more at the neuromuscular dynamics, like trigger points, things like that. We have people in our office that are dry needling or using shockwave. And then tendons tendons and joints kind of operate a little differently, as you know, like the white stuff around there, the connective tissue. So using like shockwave or piezo wave on that stuff is kind of its own thing depending on the injury. So a lot of times we're bringing that in, not just on trigger points, but if you're dealing with a tendon issue. But we do really like have a thoughtful system around it, and we're using the right tool for the right problem, and not just like shotgunning every single thing we got.
It's funny because I get calls from physical therapists on professional sports teams on how to treat their athlete with the shockwave because they're just going everywhere. I'm like, you got to know the depth of the penetration that you're after, where it's going to dissipate, what intensity to use, but most importantly, how to manipulate their body to get into that joint cavity and structure. So to me, maybe because I have an engineering background, it just seemed easy. But I'm like, how come maybe you'll feel a little bit better from going all around, but maybe if you give them that precise treatment, they may feel 95% better, and like they're for sure coming back to you. You got their trust, no problem.
It's such a powerful tool, and I'm always amazed by how many people don't know how to use the shockwave right? Like, I mean, I think that's an incredible point, because if you use it right on the right thing, it gets people way better really fast.
I feel like if you're so I think what happens is we want to turn to Graston, we want to turn to cupping and everything. But if you're a great manual therapist, and most importantly, if your diagnosing techniques of what you're doing is perfect, then you're going to know how to use these external devices, no problem. I feel like people that turn to those instead of using their brain, their hands, and looking at the person's body, that's the people that don't know how to use those devices properly, because they're just, this person comes out, let me sit and put this on someone.
That's one of my big pet peeves, when people actually don't use their hands on people. I don't care what your official licensure is in our space. Like, if somebody walks in and they lay down on your table and you do all your ortho eval, all that stuff, and then you just get a Graston tool out and start going to town without touching them first, it drives me crazy. And shout out to your PT out there who was just doing like the Lord's work on somebody's elbow, but she was using her hands, dude, and that's awesome.
When she had her interview with me, I said, I want you to work in one spot for 3 minutes straight, constantly, the same technique over and over and over again. And what's funny is the reason why we didn't have physical therapists is because they would never do manual work. So that's why we always had body workers. So when we added physical therapy in, I was stringent on making sure that they're going to learn manual therapy. And I promise you that the physical therapists, they're giving the body workers that run their learning. But here's the thing. Education's great. They have their doctorate degree, but really what they've turned into is true body workers. They know what technique to use that's going to work best on someone. They know once they put their hands on that client or that patient that they are never leaving them. And I explain, hey, it's okay. Set people up. Maybe see them once every 3 weeks. Like, just because they don't need PT or a massage, that's the wrong way to think about it. When you feel good, have someone reinforce those patterns on you. Like, it's just like going. You go to the gym. When you go to the gym, you're working out. When you go to see the PT, if it's every 3 weeks, hey, I've been doing this, hey, I've been doing this. So it's giving a little bit of accountability for long-term patient care. Of course, we want to get someone better as soon as possible, but let's say they recover from a surgery in 8 weeks. They can't just leave you. They have all these poor neuromuscular habits that have been built, and if it was a non-contact injury, then this has been going on far beyond the 8 weeks of being injured. So we got to spend time with them. So I'm so big into manual therapy. I feel like it was always the core of our business. It's something that machines and AI cannot reproduce. You cannot reproduce a human-to-human touch.
Yeah, man, it's amazing.
How do you balance blending manual therapy with movement and training?
I think it's a personalized approach. I obviously personally want to get my hands on most of the people I work with as much as possible, because I think I learn things about them that way. But if their person's walking in and their goal is to squat 500 pounds, like, the only thing I'm probably manually going to do is maybe some hip mobilizations before we start squatting, right? But again, it's a very personalized approach. So what that person needs in order to accomplish their goals, and then using the manual therapy to create more range of motion or create more ability to load those patterns. So.
And this is something interesting that I had to deal with is, has there ever been a time where someone comes in with lower back pain, but you know that they need corrective exercise and biomechanic works that's going to be way better than actually working on them? And how do you educate that on them? That you're not going to come and lay on this table. You're going to come and you're going to work out and your back pain is going to go away.
So I think there's a lot of people that want that dependency model, right? Like it's a true, we're naturally lazy as humans. We're always selecting to conserve energy. So people want this belief that they can lay on a table and get their back pain fixed, which I wish it was true. So to answer your question directly, I usually will say like, look, I will do some work on you, but like for 10 minutes, we're going to get you feeling really good. And then you're going to go do a hard session on the corrective exercises. And if you crush it, then we'll get back on the table. We'll do a little bit more at the end. So you're leaving feeling good. I'm kind of using it as a carrot there with people because I again, can think of so many of the people that I work with that would prefer to just come lay on the table and get worked on. And they'll feel better for 2 days, but they'll never actually get better. So.
Yeah, it's funny because if I'm training pro athletes, they're like, oh man, my back today. Like, can I just get some treatment?
Bro.
No, man. Bro. After or before, we're working out today. Yeah, we're moving. We may have to change what we're doing, but we're still doing it,
bro. Every single person that I work with, as soon as they, like if they come in and they want to train, as soon as they find out that I can do manual therapy, they get a host of injuries that like were never around in the intake process. So I'm like, what do you mean your ankle hurts? And they're like, oh dude, let's get on the table today. Like, I'm glad to know that it's the same with the pro.
So then I start lining them, like, I'll work on you. But as soon as they come in, it's like, all right, let's go. You're here to work out. You made it out of the bed. So I think that's hilarious. That's happened a lot. What role do you see mental health playing in sports recovery and performance, and how do you address that in your practice?
Mental health is, everything follows the brain, right? So if you're not healthy in between the eyes, everything downstream is not going to be right. So I think it's critical. And again, I think the way that we address it the best is, one, educating ourselves so we can kind of flag things early on when somebody maybe has a mental health thing that is showing up as a physiological problem, and then having great referral networks so we can make sure we get the person really good care. And then again, being that positive light that's always giving hope and always preaching resilience in human beings is essential as well.
And I think sometimes, especially when dealing with pro athletes, an injury to them, especially one that costs them a season, it could cripple them. It could literally take the whole soul out of their body. So, working with them and inspiring them, like, you're definitely going to get better. You're going to come back and you're going to return. You're going to be a better player. You're going to be a smarter player, and just being, not necessarily holding their hand, but I realized something is that's the first time that they've lost their job.
Right. Oh, yeah, I thought about that.
Because I was like, damn, why do these guys take it? It was like they lost their job.
Right.
I remember the first time I got told that I was too good at my job, so I was fired, and it didn't make me feel good, and it produced a really bad sense of unknown. So now they have an unknown of, when am I going to play again? If I'm ever going to, be better. And I feel like they'll start to fixate on what's become injured. So I really try to do a good job on, like, they'll say, oh, let's do the bad leg. No, that's your good leg. And you just slowly program them and just show them that their body is way more capable than they think it is to get better. And if they treat it like a job, like, an hour for an athlete 3 times a week is not enough. No. They should be, doing different things in your practice 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day. And anything they do in the off season is how their actual full season is going to go. I actually had the privilege of speaking with Alex Guerrero yesterday. He came to the facility, and someone I really look up to. And we just talked about looking for those missing, neurological links that go bad, and helping them and fixing them and showing them that you can get better really quick. But if you get hurt, you're going to do things the next day. The next day, you're going to get better already. And I think that having them have that mindset just says, okay, I got hurt. It sucked. Had a horrible night. Now I'm up the next day and I'm ready to get better. And I have to go at this one day at a time, but not looking back into the past. Yeah.
Moving forward. I'm huge on looking at injuries as opportunities. That's one thing I preach with our people is like, hey, this broke for a reason, but this is awesome because we found the problem. We found this thing, that happened in you, and now we're going to root it out, and you're going to return better than you've ever been before. And like getting that kind of mindset of like, hey, this is good, and even though it sucks right now in the short term, I'm going to be better in the long term for it. And again, I don't work with as many pros as you do, but I'll take like a 45-year-old mom runner of 2 who's like loves running. She's investing 10 hours of her life when she can into running and train for marathons, and to go like, hey, you're going to come back from this faster and more resilient, and this is never going to happen again. If you can get them to buy into that, and they do, then it's amazing. It's amazing because people then steer away from some of that depression, and that happens when you just
and I think
get bombed.
Being able to offer every one of our clients the same type of care that a pro athlete does is like, so because a lot of people see that it's for a professional athlete. They may make up 10% of our business. 90% is all general pop, and we give them the exact same things. Maybe the intensity is down a little bit, but they want to recover just as fast. They want to, go to their sons and daughters' basketball games and soccer field and run around with them. They want to be at work and not have back pain when they sit down, so they can make more money. So I just think having that approach and almost attacking these things aggressively for them, it gives them hope, and it really shuts down that negative self-talk that starts to fester in there. That's awesome, man. I love that you do that. I find it so interesting that you're like the split, right? The 90-10 split. But one of the things that, to go back to our conversation earlier, like that's wrong with healthcare is that there's that giant wall between what's happening with pros, and then what's happening in the real world. And like pros get better. Dudes are coming back. Aaron Rodgers is, practicing 6 weeks after an Achilles surgery because there's so much more going on behind that wall, and the fact that you're tearing it down, I love that. That is something I'm all about. The cool part is I'm watching Aaron Rodgers' recovery, and I'm like, we have the same equipment and we have better equipment. So it's like, it made me feel good, like we were on the right track. He has money and access to anything. So the fact is that we're doing some of those things and we have more things. It made me feel, okay, we're really on the right track. For sure, especially adding medical into the company, where now we can look at the DNA, look at the blood and the methylation pathways, and reduce inflammation. So systemically, we can care for the athlete or the client a lot better as well. Dude, that's so dope. I love that you're doing that. I think that's got to be one of the coolest integrations. That happens in the pro sports settings, and nobody talks about that really. But like to take that to the public, where somebody can roll in and like get blood work done and see what's going on at a genetic level and start treating things that way, or just optimizing for better health that way is incredible. That's when I came up with now we're increasing their genetic performance potential, because if they have some genetic variants that are off, we can identify them, and those things are going to have to be taken care of for the rest of their life because there's an actual variant or a missing gene. So if we know that, and here's the thing, I just heard this. If you know this information early on in your life, you will be able to take care of yourself at such a higher level early on in your life. I was like, holy shit, I think I read that yesterday. That's really powerful. The earlier you get these tests done, the sooner you can have a more detailed health plan for yourself. And that's amazing, right? The fact that you can give that to somebody here is that's the dream, right? That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's become my passion project is really focusing on it, because there's a lot of people that do X, Y, and Z, but I don't feel like there's a lot of people that have taken everything and now they integrate it into an actual center that does it and produces results. I'm going to flip the podcast a bit. So how do you guys integrate that? Like, what does it look like if I'm showing up here and like, I obviously want to train. I obviously want to use the recovery facility, but I also want to just, find out more about myself and optimize. Is there like a process? Oh yeah. So we call that our health discovery. Okay. So what that is person, client, athlete, patient comes in. We want your data. We want your VO2 max, which we do now. So we want your DEXA scan. We want your biomechanics eval. We want your PT medical eval, a kinesiology evaluation. Then we're going to test your DNA, environmental toxicity DNA, the most important. Test your Tell me more about that. What is that? So that is determining any toxins or any filtration issues that are going through your liver, your kidneys, and your organs, and how those things affect your body. That's how I found out about my heavy metal toxicity, because I'm missing genes to make glutathione for my liver. I can't process out heavy metals like a normal person can. So I can't drink cans. I can't drink energy drinks anymore. I drink out of glass bottles. I had to redo all my cookware at my house. Now I'm using ceramic. So this was a complete life change. I only found this out 3 years ago, which inspired me to put it into our own practice, because these were things I was suffering from birth. I thought I had rheumatoid arthritis. So you look at me and you don't see anything's wrong, but what's getting sacrificed is my internal organs, which you can't see. That's what's being attacked. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't smoke. So, without 3 of those horrible things, I look like I do those in my own blood work, my kidney function, my liver function.
Damn.
So I have to do so much more than a normal person to stay healthy. But that's okay. I've taken that on, and now I was like, okay, I'm going to use this as a story and an education model when I'm with people. Immunology report. So we test for IgG, IgE, and IgA. We look at all the foods. Wow. We look at spices, inhalants, molds, grasses, seeds, nuts, and then we can see exactly what inflames your body. You may have small inflammatory markers come up that are green, but they're all together, so they produce a large volume amount of inflammation, because you may eat an omelet where you're allergic to eggs, mushrooms, bell peppers, onions, and you don't think about that because that's supposed to be healthy.
Yep.
But you don't know that unless you do this test. You could work with a nutritionist giving you the best nutrition plan. They could be giving you foods that inflame you. Just because it's healthy nutrient wise doesn't mean it's right for your body. Third test, most important, urine and blood methylation test. So we stop supplementation for 5 days. Take the first urine in the morning, take your blood, and now we're looking for any deficiency. I'm looking at that test alone, 127 biomarkers. So anything you're deficient in, it's going to pull up on there. It also tests for mercury, lead, and heavy metal toxicities. So then we're prescribing supplementation solely based on that test for your body. Nothing more, nothing less. Got to be careful. You go to the store, think you're doing a good job, buy all these random supplements, and you're actually hurting your body. And again, we don't know that. So if people think they're doing good for them without having the right information, it's bad. Going back to my statement is, the sooner that we find this information out, the better. We check the stool sample collection test. So it's funny, clients, when they come to do their blood, they got their little poop bag, so we make it a little joke, right? No one wants to do that. If they might feel uncomfortable. I promise you, the gut microbiome with Alzheimer's and dementia, there's a complete loop there, and it's something that no one's ever gotten done. So you can get a colonoscopy, but you're not actually checking what's getting excreted by the stool. The urine in the stool are excreting through your vital organs. It's important to know what the heck's in there. So we stop probiotics and supplements for 2 weeks, test the stool, and we can see if you need certain strains of probiotics, the specific strain, or if you have any bacteria strain in the stomach, and how to counteract that.
Damn. So any of my clients that are listening out there, this is what I'm striving for. So I do something, this is like the highest level. I spent a lot of time thinking about this stuff. I have never heard anybody doing this level of care with somebody. So that's so amazing that you've done this.
Yeah.
When I onboard clients, I have them do a VO2 max test. We test a bunch of range of motion things, a bunch of strength things, and then we're getting blood work done to look at it. But it's your, normal kind of like what Thorne Health would do, like 126 biomarker, like not on this level, dude. This is crazy. Like this is everything that I look for as a consumer, right?
Yeah,
like that's amazing.
Here's the thing, we have all these companies that do some of these DNA tests, whatever, but then you get stuck because you can't talk to a physician.
Right.
Here, you get to talk to one of our physicians. So we can do this in all 50 states. We send the blood work out to the patient, write their script for their blood. They're going to go to Quest, or they can grab a private phlebotomist on the computer, and we can test their data. And then we can give that with their permission to themselves and a company that they're working with. So they have some insight there. And then now, that's, again, I want to help as many clinics as possible, as many wellness centers as possible, because just because Project Wellbeing does well, that's not enough. It's enough to touch as many human lives as possible, because again, the sooner they know this information, the more that you're going to be able to help them. And most importantly, they're going to learn some vital information on their health that they may have waited to learn when something's really bad, when they're sick, and they let something fester in their body for 5 years. We also do the early cancer detection test as well through blood. Here's the thing. A lot of these tests, they're uncomfortable. Is it complicated? Yeah, man. Yeah. It's added a lot of complications into the business. It's not simple, but I'm always a fan of, just because something's hard doesn't mean I'm going to do it, and someone has to do it. And fast forward 5 years from now, I know that we'll be able to take this so mainstream, and it's really going to, this will fight against the medical field, the insurance, because you got to pay cash for these things. Yeah. It's okay. People spend money on shoes and purses. Shit, put this thing on a goddamn credit card right now and get the inside of your body looked at.
Dude, your health is like the most important investment in your entire life, right? Like, if we look at people that are, putting money in their 401k for down the road, but then they're treating their body like trash, like, this is that investment. Don't invest your 401k. Go to Project Wellbeing. I love that. Get your insides, get everything looked at so you can understand what you're dealing with and make some great decisions in order to live longer and healthier, happier life.
We live in America where you got to work to like 60 years old to finally have the freedom at 60 to then take a look at your life and your health. Man, by that time, it's going to be way too late. It's done. It's gone. So I think we need to look at this in a better way. We need to look at this and be like, this may be something you can't afford not to do.
Agreed. I don't know how much this costs, but like, whatever it is, this has to be one of the most worthwhile investments that you can make. Freaking ride a bus, take a train, whatever, for a year, save the money and do this. Because this can change the outcome of your life. Like, these are the kind of things that, like, I know so many people that have struggled with like chronic health issues because the way our healthcare system is, they just don't look at this stuff. They don't go deep enough. Oh, your blood panel looks fine. You're not looking for metal toxicity in environmental factors. And so you have humans that are, living in an environment that's killing them on a daily basis.
I got over 30 blood tests. Not one time did it ever test for anything until I met an infectious disease specialist. Then I got the information I needed, but then I got no plan after.
Right. The thing that I really love about this place too is, and this is going to be a statement and a question. It's all integrated, right? So you have a MD taking all this information, but then how is that synthesized into a plan across all the different people in here?
In no other company lets you work with a physician and an expert physiologist at the same time. Yeah. There are things that a human physiologist knows that a physician doesn't know, and vice 100%. Versa. Sometimes that person also needs some actual medical care. Yep. I don't like medicines, but sometimes we have to have them for a certain amount of time. Now, being able to talk to both of those experts at the same time, where your doctor knows about training and exercise and hyperbaric chambers and red light beds and saunas and proper workouts, that changes everything.
It does. And the fact, physicians aren't educated on all this stuff, right? I love that you said, I have a physician on our team, and she regularly says, like, I have no clue how exercise really affects physiology at all, which is crazy when you think about it. She's like, I had exactly 0 hours of education in exercise and nutrition in med school. It is what it is. But to be able to have an integrated staff where you can have an MD say, like, hey, Sean, this person's, VO2 max says that they got some shitty lungs and heart, and I have blood work that backs that up. But you can take a physiologist and a trainer and then create a plan in order to fix that in an organic way that isn't throwing them on a freaking stack.
Yeah. So now let's say through that health discovery, all of your tests come back. You meet with the physician. They go over all of your DNA and all of your tests there. Our biomechanics specialist is going to go over your VO2 max, your DEXA scan, your biomechanics evaluation. Once everything is done there, the expert physiologist is now going to take both of those informations and make a plan for you. So if your blood work comes back, you got high inflammatory properties, we're gonna get you in the sauna 3 days a week in the infrared sauna. Then we're gonna get you in the high heat sauna for another 3 days, alternating them, because guarantee you got probably some heart health inflammation as well, not just on a toxicity level. If someone's stressed out, we may get them on our vibroacoustic and brain tap, so that we can lower their parasympathetic nervous system. Damn. That's going to help them adapt. At the same time, they're going to be doing PT. They probably might get a massage. We start getting them to move their body and train immediately. As soon as I have 100% close rate. And it's because there is no one coming in here that doesn't need help. Yeah. How do we approach that, and what kind of help do they need? And it's not selling them All I'm doing is taking advanced knowledge and research and presenting it directly in front of them, and I let them make a decision.
I mean, that's the thing. You have all the data, right? Like that's literally not selling anybody. It's just saying, hey, here's all your data, like, and here's a plan that can help you get better. Like, who's saying no to that? Like,
yeah,
that's incredible.
And again, yes, these things cost money, but sometimes we're getting clients and patients that are spending 30, 40 grand at another company where that company gives them any peptide, any hormone that they want. They come here and like, first thing we're going to do is we gotta get you with a physician to evaluate exactly what the hell you're doing, because you're taking too many things. We have no idea what's working. You're definitely not feeling well, and you made a $40,000 annual investment. So that's when we do the deep dive, when we go through. They didn't do their stool test. They didn't do a urine analysis. My average blood work is 118 biomarkers. All the cardiovascular risk factors in there, APOB, A and E, and correlating that with the cholesterol, looking at the inflammatory markers, because those things are getting missed in their general blood work. Again, I had over 30 blood works. Not one time did anyone say, maybe we should test for heavy metals. So my whole life I thought I was sick, and I just pushed through it. And but how much damage was done, during that time of basically not knowing.
And how much like performance were you robbed of in your sport? So many things.
And I know it took years off of my life. So now it's about health optimization for me. However many years I got left to live, I'm trying to optimize them. I'm not a huge fan of longevity, but I'm a huge fan of health optimization. I think we get into this world now. Biohacking is going mainstream. I'm big into biohacking, but under research and literature. I'm very big into human and health optimization, which requires research and literature from biohacking.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And I think, again, that longevity word, it's trendy right now, but like, who cares how long you live if you live like shit all the time? I'd rather die in 2 weeks, but have like the best 2 weeks in my body of doing everything I could and being a human able of doing everything. I love that optimization idea.
Yeah, cool, and as I learned, it's okay. You can be the best entrepreneur in the world and not take care of your mind. You can have the perfect body and not take care of your mind. You can have the perfect blood work and not take care of your mind. If you don't take care of your mind, it's going to take care of you for sure. You'll end up in the darkest place that you've ever been in your life if you don't take care of your mind. So I think that was a part of the business, mental performance and mental health that was missing. It's something that's actually the reason why I created the podcast, because I knew that this is the missing link from how we tie all these things together. And I think it comes from trust, care, and proper communication that we can actually give, clients that come into the business.
And as an entrepreneur too, it's hard. Like I don't know if you feel this way, but I do often. Like you feel like you're on an island, and it can be pretty dark out there.
I say this on every podcast. Many times I'm in a coliseum with an entire stadium, and I feel like I'm alone.
Yeah, it's a lonely place, bro.
Yeah, so it's like, and again, I feel like, creating this podcast and being able to have these real conversations with other entrepreneurs where they start to open up a little bit, especially like, I don't think that other men like talking to other men because they think that there's a form of weakness there. But if you look at mental health, it's affecting men at a way more rapid rate than it is women, because we feel like we need to internalize it all. So lately I'm like, you know what, my whole life is transparent. I don't care what anyone knows about me. I'm fully transparent on the computer, on Instagram, social media, in my practice. I'm just being me every day. So if you get a benefit from being around me, and I'm trying to be the best person possible, great. I'm far from perfect, but my new approach is we have to start tying these things together, because too many people are suffering in silence, for sure. It's happened to me multiple times, and but we 100% need awareness on that, because that creates so much sickness in the body we're never going to be able to understand what type of sickness is created by that. But I promise you, it's worse than cancer.
Yeah. Have you read that book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers?
I don't think
by Robert Sapolsky. It's a great book, but he has a very famous quote in there that says, like, human beings are so smart that we can think ourselves sick. And I'm so into that, and that in this conversation, about entrepreneurship and the loneliness, and dude, you can make yourself really freaking sick and miserable by just not having this transparency, by not having a network of people to kind of share this with. And it is a lonely place, but if you have these things that you're talking about, it does help.
And I'll use the Nike slogan, just do it. If you want to open up your own business, if you want to expand your business, if you want to add something to your business, we cripple ourselves with trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
You can't start anything if you're trying to be perfect. And at the end of the day now, it's like, if I want to create something and it fails, okay, it failed. Like, what's the worst that could happen? You lose your business and you live in an apartment. No one's going to take your integrity and your skill set away from you. Just start over again, and it will for sure be easier this time.
Right.
So
a lot of lessons learned. Then.
Yeah, just got to stop, living out of fear. Johnny, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me. Awesome. I love your business, Atlanta Sports Recovery. Can you let them know how to find you on Instagram?
You can find us at Atlanta Sports Recovery or AtlantaSportsRecovery.com. DM me anytime. Love to talk about this stuff.
All right, thank you so much, Ryan.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.